I grew up about an hour south of T-Town, and my father was a cyclist. And so that kind of inherently got me into it and just trying it out. And I went through the Air Products program, which is a really good developmental program at the Valley Preferred Cycling Center. So that kind of brought me up through the training wheel years and, into racing. I think I started Pee Wee Peddlers maybe around 6,
Oh,
about
wow.
that age.
Okay.
But I didn't start, I did my first nationals at 11, and I
Wow.
had no idea what I was doing, but gave it a shot.
Yeah.
I always thought that field hockey would be my path because it came very easily to me. And
Mm.
it was something that I could do without having to put a whole lot of practice into it. And cycling was the complete opposite. It was
Yeah.
always a struggle. I have so little actual talent for cycling.
Yeah.
um, but I took field hockey pretty much as far as it could go and went through college and D1. And at the end, you're kind of left with national team or nothing.
Hmm.
And I got invited to try out for the national team, and it wasn't for me. I needed a break. And so I said, I'm going to switch gears for a little bit and hopped more into cycling, and it just kind of took off. There's something about that. I think that's why all cyclists are a little crazy, because there's a big sufferfest element involved.
Yeah.
Um, but I actually really like that part of it.
A big split between the guys that were in top shape and
Hmm.
others a little less. And that was very apparent during those races. Was that the same for the other categories also? Because I only saw the 3/4s. Was that the same?
It was, the pattern kind of held, but that
Mm.
3-4 race was brutal. They went from the gun and they just drilled it the whole time. So that lead group in that race did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
But that was the same theme was consistent with the other races, just maybe not to that high of an extent.
Like
Bananas.
bananas. Okay. Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a good one. And I make up my own bar with a combination of, it's like oatmeal, a little bit of peanut butter, dates, and coconut. And it actually kept my blood sugar high for a long time, which is not normally, like, for health reasons, you want it low and steady,
Yeah.
but exercise, you want available fuel. So I
Right.
kept it on the higher edge of normal and
Yeah.
steady, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember having, it was, oh gosh, what was the mixture? It was beetroot juice
Mhm.
with caffeine and beta alanine before a race.
Yeah.
And I get to the start line and I'm shaking on the start line. I was like, oh no, I overdid it. And I looked down, and no joke, before we start, my heart rate's at 140.
Wow.
I'm thinking, there is no way this is going to end well. It was interesting. And it actually came years ago when I was racing on my own. I had just gotten off of like a local team that just, I just didn't mesh well with some of the people, and there weren't any teams that kind of hit that middle ground at the time for women, where it was either a juniors team or it was more of a masters women's team who's doing it for fun, or you've got the little kids, and there wasn't a whole lot in the middle.
Mhm.
And so I kind of found myself floating and racing on my own, which I was fine with and did well. And there was a rider who came over, Alicia Keith, now Alicia Dawkins, and we wound up racing a lot of the same races, and we kept going 1-2 in all these races, and got to talking, and she said, hey, she goes, I don't have a team when I'm over in the US, and it doesn't seem like you have a team either. How about we do something together? Or can you get me a ride on a different team? I said, let's do our own thing. We can do this. Like,
Yeah.
how hard can it be? Yeah, well, that was a mistake. But it's like, okay, that's fine. And I literally set off on this mission of saying I thought it would be so cool for us to have a team where we get to make the rules. There are so many, at the time, there were all these things out there about how, teams are going bankrupt and that people weren't managing the funds the way that they thought they should be, and riders were frustrated. And so we said, why are we going to jump into something that we might not like. We'll make our own rules, and we'll make everything transparent, and it'll be, you know, a group decision, and, you know, we can really make it exactly what we want.
Yeah.
And so I remember on the flight down to Pan Am Championships, I got a bicycling magazine, and I flipped through and emailed every company that had an ad in that magazine. And I pitched them the idea of this team. It was like 120 emails, ridiculous. I said, okay, we've got Anita's the sprinter, Alicia's the enduro, and I can play the middle. We've got a team of 3 that we can do a lot with. And wound up having Pickle Juice give me a call back as I was on a bus back from New York coaching. And they said, hey, we got your email. We're really interested. Tell me some more about it. And we must have had an hour-and-a-half phone call. And by the end, it was, let's do this. We'll make it work. Yeah. And we wound up having, Alicia came up from New Zealand, and Nita came over from Norway. And we traveled around and hit I think it was 75 races in 3 months, because they had 3 months before their visas expired. Right. So they had to go home. So we literally took it 89 days that they were here. And we were all over the country. And it was, I have a Honda Fit with a bike rack on the top. This thing was like a clown car full of stuff. Because we had a low budget. I mean, it was our first season, and it cost enough to get to 70 something races, and let alone hotels and things like that. But we had something ridiculous, like a 40% win rate at the races we went to. It was a little 3-man powerhouse that just worked amazingly. It wound up being this snowball effect where everyone who's ridden for the team has at least one national championship and represented their country internationally. And it's just been this jam-packed season of racers from the age of 19 to, I'm the old one now, so 29, that it's just race till you drop and see how many things you can get. Last year we had 102 races in the year. It's just, and it's a great learning experience for the younger ones. You're just like baptized by fire, and you get the hang of it, and they pick it up like that. Yeah. And then for me, it's nice to be able to pass some of that on and help some of these guys out, and still be able to race myself, and still be able to hit the higher level races that maybe I've done for 10 years now, that I can say, this is how the course is going to work. It always ends in a sprint. Like you can give them the pointers to help cut down the learning curve for them. So it's been just an incredible experience, kind of taking this from what could have been a complete bust into something that's been a great international women's team.